too. Jeff Hull is Senior Financial Advisor at Manulife Wealth. He's here in studio. He's been in studio so many times, right? 30 years now, you said.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So a very familiar face to our viewers. Great
Absolutely.
to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. All right, so big banks. We had JP Morgan and a whole slew of others yesterday, and today Bank of America, Morgan Stanley. It all seems pretty robust. What do you make of it?
Actually, it's pretty impressive. They're all kind of hitting the ball out of the park. Obviously, JP Morgan's one of the kind of tips of the spear for all of that. But today, with the earnings coming up from both Morgan Stanley, Bank of America up 44%, and bank investment fees is incredible. You got Morgan Stanley going from $12.9 billion a year ago to $16.2 billion. And it wasn't under the best circumstances either. So the fact that they can get that growth and squeeze it out in this kind of an economy, and it'll be very interesting under a Trump administration if a lot of those regulations, things may come down a bit to allow them to even get more traction. Could be an interesting time ahead.
Right. You're expecting what you call a deregulation bonanza. So what would that look like in the financial services sector and broaden it out to some other sectors?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be too much regulation cut in the financial sector because they love the regulations. But overall, the theme from Trump will be absolutely deregulation across the board. As you said, a bonanza of deregulation, cutting a lot of the red tape, a lot of the tariffs for certain things. But the main thing is there'll be a lot less red flags going up and more yellow flags going up instead. So just be conducive of a greater business environment. Some of those headwinds will now become tailwinds for business.
Now, you think that the U.S. economy may be a bit lumpy and bumpy, and that will flow through to equity markets as well. But investors need to be nimble and look for opportunities. How do they go about doing that and having to pivot maybe if something happens? Like, okay, that's not working. This looks like a good opportunity. How do they do that?
Well, I think the biggest thing for investors is have your plan and work your plan. Too many people fail the plan, and that's a big issue that way. So really do a deep dive on the companies that people like, the stocks or investments they may like, work with a professional, but really have your wish list and then wait for opportunities. Don't be hurried, be disciplined, be patient. So when the time comes, you can pull the trigger on something that's great and a great opportunity. But also investors can buy in pieces. Too often people push in all their chips. They can take time to buy things over time, dollar cost average, kind of spreads out some of those speed bumps that you've talked about.
I'm picturing you on the phone or face-to-face with a client and saying these kinds of things. Can you sort of take us through that process and how you convince them to go that route and to say, no, don't chase that and that kind of thing?
Well, I'm kind of blessed with great clients, and a lot of my clients have been with me 10, 20, 30 plus years. So we kind of work in concert together. We read from the same sheet music, and that's really important. And actually, the other thing people need to also realize is it's always good to involve people's accountants and their lawyers potentially as well to make sure the entire team is reading from the same sheet music for people. But the biggest thing is to look at companies and make sure the company and the direction for its future matches what that client's looking for specifically. Does it match their personal goals, objectives, risk parameters, timeframes? If it's a great match, then it might be a worthy candidate for consideration.
And I like your idea of being patient, don't chase. Maybe the stock, the company will stumble a little bit, and then you can take a look at it and get in. A couple of ideas here before we take a break. Axon Enterprise, is this a bit of an AI play?
It now is.
Yeah.
For years, it used to be called Taser, known for the police taser guns. Then they got into the body cameras with Axon, which records, obviously, interactions with the public or criminals. Actually, Walmart now is actually testing them for a lot of their staff across America, as an example, both security and some other staff at cashiers, so they don't get kind of barked at by certain customers and things, kind of calms things down. But what's amazing about that company is they just don't do the body cameras. They don't just do the, they have drones, they have the taser guns, but now they're really involving AI. And now AI is helping write most of the police reports that are out there, as an example. So an officer that may have a 12-hour shift used to spend maybe 4 hours at the end typing, sometimes with 2 fingers, their reports and kind of logging everything in. Now AI can interpret their body camera video that they click into a docking station. When they come in, it gets encrypted right away. And it also interprets all their notes from any traffic tickets or anything else they were working on, puts it all together into a format that makes sense. And then the officer only has to spend 1 hour at the end of a 12-hour shift just checking and making sure everything looks right. So then police can do what they do best, which is get out there and police, and then leave the paperwork to a little bit to the end and have AI support you and do the heavy lifting.
I can see police officers really loving that, not having to do as much paperwork, and it sounds way more efficient.
Oh, absolutely. And as we know, AI is such a transformational type of program. The technology is amazing, and the best is yet to come.
Another idea is Palantir. Would you agree it's kind of a polarizing company because it has so many defense contracts and I don't know, some people just don't seem to like it.
Yeah, it's an interesting company, but that's another one people need to be a little bit careful with, pay attention to if you're going to be involved with something like that. Mainly talk to their advisors and make sure they have a plan. Because when Trump gets into office, when his moving truck moves in Monday, Tuesday there, and Elon Musk is there to swing a samurai sword and cut government contracts, a lot of what Palantir does is government contracts. But then again, Peter Thiel, one of the founders of Palantir, also is good friends with Donald Trump. So how does that play out on both polar sides? Interesting company. It's very involved with the Ukraine war and is helping actually make decisions in the battlefield about what to do and when in real time. But they're also helping Wendy's restaurants decide in the summertime how their frosty machines can stay up to date with the heat waves and patterns of weather. So it's an interesting company that has an array and a spectrum of things it can do with its technologies, but it's one that's heavily overvalued in some ways. But it's such a great company for the future. But people got to be careful. It's a bucking bronco, that one.
Right.